My name is Attorney Jason Keith, and I represent Pastor Drumwright. He's called this press conference, as some of you may know, regarding the events of seems as though October 31st, that he was, at that point, when the pepper spray occurred, subsequently he's been charged. This weekend, Friday more specifically, we went and he was served on new charges of assault on a law enforcement officer. The allegations allege that he assaulted a police officer to the degree where he was charged with a felony offense. He also was charged with a public disturbance and resisting arrest. I'm going to tender Mr. Drumwright to you. We want to give you an opportunity to level the playing field, to understand there are two versions of every story. It's our belief that at some point in time, the irony is where we're located at this courthouse is where they physically hold their jury trials, is that at some point in time there's going to be a hearing. There's going to be a procedure in which we determine what's right and what's wrong, what's truthful and what's false. And it looks as though they're trying to label Mr. Drumwright as an agitator. They're trying to say that the pepper spraying was justified and that their conduct was justified given the circumstances. But there's a lot of video footage, and we'll get into all of that at some later point. What I will do is my understanding, this is going to be a very brief press conference. We're going to discuss, and he's going to discuss a very few things with you. He will table a couple of questions at the end, but at this time, I'm going to tender Pastor Drumwright.
Well, my iPad didn't get charged up last night, so we'll work with this much larger device. Good afternoon, and thank you for being here, which has turned into the epicenter of a demand for justice in the southeastern part of the United States, Court Square here in Graham, North Carolina. I have prepared a statement. The county is posting a 3-minute recorded excerpt of my more than 20-minute speech at the community meeting, which misleads the public into thinking that I, and by implication, all of the other community members and organizers gathered at the meeting, was advocating violence and rioting. Nothing could be further from the truth. And it is disturbing that the county and Alamance News would spread this false and destructive narrative. Several times during my speech, I affirmed the use of only peaceful, lawful demonstrations and actions to confront and address racialized policing and government-sanctioned or sponsored white supremacist symbols and conduct. It's a shame that the Alamance News failed to include those quotes in its post and chose to instead selectively use quotes out of context to mislead the public and attempt to foment division among our peace-loving and law-abiding community. Had the county and Alamance News included the full recording and the quotes before and after the 3-minute excerpt, then the public would see that I was contrasting peaceful marches with riots and clearly advocating for the former. We understand why the sheriff would want the county to spread this false narrative, do we not?
Yes.
We understand that the sheriff and the ground police are being sued for their violence against peaceful marchers at the March to the Polls on October 31st. And the sheriff and the county are again all over the news for the county board's action and the sheriff deputy's use of excessive force and unlawful arrest of peaceful protesters at the Board of Commissioners meeting on November the 16th. We understand, and they understand, why they are spewing a false narrative. In a few moments, well, actually, we have victims of the November 16th arrests here with us today. Victims that are still dealing with the trauma of yet another round of justice, peaceful protester roundups by the sheriff's department, folks that have sustained injuries. And so I'm here to tell you that it is deplorable. Deplorable that the county would respond in this way instead of addressing what it did. It is deplorable that the county continues to violate people's rights here in Alamance County. Alamance News' actions, on the other hand, are the height of irresponsibility.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Alamance News' biased and destructive journalism continues to cast peaceful organizers and peaceful protesters and demonstrators against racial inequality and racial injustice in a negative light. And the community is ready to respond to Alamance News. The community is ready to activate against Alamance News and any other business or institution here in Alamance County that would support white supremacy or racial acts or misrepresentation of African Americans and Hispanics and disparaged people who are fighting for justice here in Alamance County. We're ready for change. We're ready for change. And so let me just say this. We asked Alamance to immediately retract the misleading quotes.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, then at least include the full recording. At least post the full recording and include it in your reporting from the community meeting that you planted a reporter in that did not identify themselves as members of the media. We would love for the person who furnished the Alamance News with that recording to to identify yourself as well. We demand that the county remove the misleading excerpt of the recording from our community meeting from its website. And with that said, and in light of the ongoing systemic oppression at the hands of law enforcement, let me include in that Graham Police Department, as well as the Alamance County Sheriff's Department that works in tandem to disparage justice in this community, that throughout, and this is happening, let me make sure this is clear, this is happening not just here in Alamance, but it's happening throughout America as well. There have been people that have been brought here to stand for justice from all over this country because of their convictions against what is going on where they're from and what's going on right here in Graham. We're calling on organizers from throughout our region and across America to travel back into Graham, North Carolina, some for the first time, to stand in solidarity with the community to send a message and to activate a campaign to end the Jim Crow slave patrol that targets and punishes the innocent and criminalizes innocent people here in Alamance County. When have you ever known it to take 27 days for police to charge a black man with assaulting a police officer who have had video since the moment it happened, if it were true? They've held 2 press conferences and had several closed door community meetings with select folks in all this time to allege that their actions were justified, but never mentioned these accusations or these charges. They are retaliatory. And therefore, my comments, I stand behind them.
Yes, sir.
We are at war.
Yes.
This has been playing out this entire summer. But it's not located in this summer alone. There are people that have moved back into Alamance County after being gone for 35 years in our organizations that have said, not only have things not changed, but it has become worse. And so let me help you. We don't bring militia tactics to this war. We don't bring guns. We don't bring chemical weapons to this war as have been used against us. We don't bring knives. We don't bring hate. Because this is a work against racism. Working against racism is what we are guilty of. And if you take that and develop an acronym behind it, it means war. Working against racism is what I am guilty of. Working against white supremacy is what I am guilty of. Working against the long establishment of systemic oppression and systemic statues that hail the oppression of racial bigotry and bias here in Alamance County. And by the way, there are people that are guilty of this all over the world now by the millions. We have been working against racism all this time, and we're not going to stop. I believe that the good Lord has blessed us with August weather in November so that we can continue our working against racism. So with that said, I am here to announce something that you have been hearing all summer long here in Alamance County. We're ready for change. And on Sunday, we've changed the date, so I want to make you all aware of that. On Sunday, November 29th. Next Sunday, an hour and 31 minutes from this very hour, 7 days from today, we're going to march all over Graham, North Carolina again. So we're announcing the Ready for Change peaceful protest for police and criminal justice reform here in Alamance County. If you have not attended a peaceful demonstration yet this summer or anytime this fall, this is your opportunity to stand with the beloved community. Do you not see that we are not militia soldiers? Do you not see that we mean no harm to this community? Do you not see that we are a multi-generational, multi-racial, multi-ethnic, multi-orientation movement that is coming together from all walks of life to ensure that the people here in Alamance County have a better shot at a better America? I want to thank the beloved community. I want to thank the organizational leaders Organizations like Down Home Alamance. Organizations like People for Change. Organizations like Forward Motion Alamance. Organizations like the state level of the North Carolina NAACP that has came out with multiple organizations all over the world condemning the acts of law enforcement here in Alamance County. Organizations like beyond Alamance County, like Greensboro Rising. Organizations, people from Raleigh, people from Charlotte, people from Virginia, people from South Carolina, Georgia, up and down the East Coast that are standing with the citizens here in Alamance County. I am not the first, I am just the latest victim of unjust and unfounded charges that seeks to funnel black bodies, Hispanic bodies, and our white lives into the criminal justice system for doing nothing else than working against racism. Did y'all hear what war means? Working against racism. I want our families to know we're out here working against racism. We're braving the cold and COVID-19 to bring down Confusion 2020. We mean peace, but we're not going to stop working against racism right here in Alamance County. You need to get here. You need to gas up your cars. Get your signs together. Stay close to our social media. We're going to announce all of the details. There are org leaders, clergy, public officials everywhere calling our offices every day because they want to see an end to this police violence and a beginning to criminal justice reform.
Yes, sir.
Please go on our website, j4tng.org. Follow our social media. I left one organization out because I want to single them out because they've been working hard every week. Justice for the Next Generation has been working on more than just a local platform. But there are people right here in Alamance County that have been holding folks' feet to the fire. Every weekend, people like Avery and Sean and Maurice and Spencer and Quincelin and the Carters, people like Carrie and Miss D have been out here advocating and working against violence. I'm the only one that got the felonies on the 31st. But we're calling on Sheriff Terry Johnson to be charged for the things that he's done. We're calling for felonies against him. We're calling for Christy Cole to step down because she misled this community into chaos on the 31st. We're calling for police action against the police. Alamance Alliance for Justice. Thank you all for being vigilant. Thank you all for remaining peaceful. Thank you all for being faithful to this community. Thank you for everything that you've been doing, AA for J, to work against racism. Let's hear it for Alamance Alliance for Justice. Full details for the march will be posted tomorrow. The date, the time is solid. It is a peaceful protest for police and criminal justice reform here in Graham, North Carolina on Sunday, November the 29th at 2 p.m. Ashe.
At this time, we will table a couple of questions. I want to remind you that there are criminal charges pending against Mr. Drumwright, and so some questions can be answered and some questions can't. So at this time, we will table questions. So who has the first question? Go ahead.
Law enforcement has come out and said that the permit you asked for in November only was for a specific area, and the problem started when y'all marched to the polls, and I was wondering what your response was to that.
Well, let the record reflect that voter obstruction happened at the hands of law enforcement on October 31st. I'm assuming you meant October 31st.
I'm sorry, yes, sir.
Yes. We never made it to the polls. We landed in jail. Our march and our rally convened just a few feet away from where we stand for nearly an hour. Nearly an hour. There was, and let's be clear about this. They sought until clergy in this community pushed back against their narrative. They sought to make vigilantes out of us for a very small, non-threatening piece of electrical equipment. The same generator that we had on October 31st for that rally was the same generator that we used to power the press conference in the same place, in the exact same spot, for the exact same purposes just 3 weeks before, with police looking over us and at us the entire time. And so it is important for the community to understand that these police cannot be trusted. They do not want to be accountable to our community for their actions on the 31st, which kept folks from registering to vote on the final day of registration and people from voting on the final day of registration.
Next question, Lady in the red.
Yeah, Gregory Drumwright, I was at the march on the 31st with my 6-year-old daughter, and I was really proud to bring her to teach her about voting and what people, the importance of being out here to support our neighbors. But we were pepper sprayed with no warning. It was 30 seconds before they said clear the street right there, and there were lots of people here, and it was very difficult to clear the streets in that time while maintaining social distance. So we came to the follow-up march. She was so afraid, and she says when she sees police now, she feels afraid.
My Lord.
So do you have a recommendation for what to tell my and I know there were younger children than Beatrice at the march.
Yes. Let me say that there are members from our community as young as 5 years old and as elder as 86 years old that suffered injuries and trauma from the police's actions on the 31st. By their own admission, they gave hundreds of people 14 seconds to clear the streets before they started releasing pepper spray. I'm sorry, not pepper spray, tear gas. Or is it? Tear gas. I need to make sure that chemical reagents, harmful chemical reagents. I want to be clear about this. I don't know if 14 seconds is enough for a few dozen people behind me to clear out of this space with no warning before that could even be obeyed. It was a improper demand on the behalf of the law enforcement agencies. On October 26th, I sent a letter to Chief Christy Cole and to ground public officials asking them not to bring militia force, not to bring armed and amped up force, referencing our peaceful march on July the 11th, specifically asking them not to use any chemical agents for crowd control on October 31st. It turns out that October 26th letter was prophetic because they'd done everything but the right thing. And so since the Graham Police Department and Alamance County Sheriff's Department has not issued our community an apology, has not issued our elders an apology, has not issued Pastor Janet an apology who suffered injuries, whose wheelchair scooter no longer is in operation because of their actions. It was turned over on the street. She lied there in the middle of that street right there when they were forcing us away with pepper spray. Since folks behind me were actually sprayed directly in the face, and video proves that we were sprayed directly in the face, not just at the ground. Since they won't apologize to us, since they won't apologize to Miss Clay's 5-year-old boy and your daughter, let us apologize to you. We are sorry.
We're sorry.
That your baby girl and that members of our community were assaulted by the police that are charged to protect and serve for being peaceful but working against racism. Please let your baby girl know that we will protect us on November the 29th. The same way we protected us on November the 3rd. Who protects us?
We protect us.
We apologize to her for that.
One last question.
One last, yes.
To stay on schedule, we're going to do one last question. Ma'am, Ms. Carlene.
Can you talk about what conversations have happened with the city, or you anticipate will happen with the city in advance of this?
Yes. I'm glad you said that, because the only conversation that Sheriff Terry Johnson or anyone from the city has convened with me is to announce felony and misdemeanor charges. They have held several meetings with some fine folks here in this community who, as we understand it, asked at those meetings, why have you not invited any of the victims? Why have you all excluded the organizers of these events from these conversations? Why are you all presenting redacted documents that Drumwright sent forth when Justice for the Next Generation was organizing these events with you? They redacted the October 26th letter. They showed one page because the second page contained my request for them not to bring chemical agents for crowd control purposes. We are still wondering why we haven't been invited into a community meeting. Does this not look like the community to Graham Police and Alamance County Sheriffs? We're wondering why they closed the doors on those meetings. We're wondering when the accountability is going to come forth about those meetings. And we're still wondering why it took them 27 days to bring erroneous charges up against me if they've had this video since the moment that it happened. We know why. Because they don't want to be accountable, and they want to disparage the organizing community that's going to force change for the greater good here in Alamance County.
That's right.
So thank you all for being here. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of the clergy and all of the community leaders in Burlington and beyond here in Graham that are standing with us. Thank you to the beloved community behind us. We will see you 1 week from today. We're ready for change right here in Alamance County. Follow our website and our social media for final details. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sam. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I close out with a song?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
The Lord laid it on my heart.
Amen.
Amen. Lord, whatever you're doing in this season, please don't do it without me. Don't do it without me. Lord, whatever you're doing in this season, please don't do it without me. Don't do it without
Lord,
Go ahead.
if you're healing in this season, please don't do it without me. Don't do it without me. Again. Lord, if you're healing in this season, please don't do it without me. Don't do it without me. Lord, if you're blessing in this season, please don't do it without me. Don't do it without me. Thank you. Amen.